everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that might surprise you, especially if you're planning a dream trip to Italy. We're talking about Venice, the city of canals, gondolas, and pigeons. Lots and lots of pigeons. But here's a crucial piece of travel advice. Whatever you do, do not feed them. Yes, you heard that right. That iconic image you might have of someone in St. Mark's Square, arms outstretched, covered in a flurry of feathered friends. That's actually illegal, and breaking this law can land you a hefty fine, sometimes hundreds of euros. So why is Venice so strict about this? Why did they ban what seems like a harmless tourist activity? Well, the story behind this ban is fascinating. It's a tale of history, art preservation, public halo, and a city fighting to protect its very soul. He's cheeky with me because we're going to uncover the real reasons why feeding pigeons in Venice is a big no. Let's start by painting a picture of the problem. We're not talking about a few dozen birds. At the peak of the problem, estimates suggested there were over 100,000 pigeons in Venice. Think about that. For a city with a resident population that's been declining, that's at least 2 pigeons for every local Venetian St. Mark's Square, or Piazza San Marco, was ground zero. For decades, it was famous for its pigeon population. There were even licensed vendors who sold little packets of grain to tourists, encouraging the very activity that is now banned. It became a self-perpetuating cycle. More tourists feeding pigeons meant more pigeons, which in turn attracted more tourists who wanted that classic photo op. But while it looked charming on postcards, the reality for the city was anything but. This massive, concentrated pigeon population was causing some serious damage. The number one reason for the ban is preservation. Venice is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a floating museum filled with priceless architecture, marble statues, and ancient mosaics that have stood for centuries. And pigeon droppings are incredibly destructive. They are highly acidic, and this acid eats away at stone and marble. When you have tens of thousands of pigeons roosting on historic buildings like St. Mark's Basilica and the Doge's Palace, their collective droppings act like a slow, relentless acid bath. The acid corrodes the surfaces, causing permanent staining, pitting, and erosion. It accelerates the decay of these irreplaceable structures far more than natural weathering ever could. The city was spending millions of euros every year just to clean and repair the damage caused by pigeons. Imagine trying to scrub acidic droppings off delicate centuries-old carvings. It's a painstaking, expensive, and ultimately losing battle if the source of the problem isn't addressed. The ban wasn't just a suggestion. It was a desperate measure to save the city's architectural heritage from being literally eaten away. Beyond the buildings themselves, the pigeons posed a serious threat to public health and hygiene. Large concentrations of birds create a lot of waste, and it doesn't just land on statues. It gets all over the piazzas, the walkways, the outdoor seating at cafes. This creates a very unpleasant and unsanitary environment. Pigeon droppings can carry a host of diseases and bacteria, like Salmonella and E. coli. While the risk of transmission to humans is relatively low, it's not zero. For a city that relies on tourism, maintaining a clean and safe environment is paramount. No one wants their romantic Venetian holiday to include dodging bird droppings or worrying about the cleanliness of their outdoor lunch spot. The constant need for cleaning was a huge drain on municipal resources, and frankly, it was a never-ending job. The city had to be hosed down constantly. By stopping the feeding, the city aimed to make the public spaces cleaner, safer, and more enjoyable for both residents and the millions of visitors who come each year. There's also the direct impact on the people themselves. While some tourists enjoyed the birds, many others did not. The pigeons became incredibly bold. They would swarm people, snatching food right out of their hands or even off their plates at outdoor restaurants. Imagine sitting down for a lovely, expensive meal by the Grand Canal, only to have a flock of pigeons descend on your table. It's not exactly a 5-star experience. This aggressive behavior became a real nuisance. They would land on people's heads and shoulders, sometimes scratching them. For young children or people who are afraid of birds, an encounter with a swarm of hungry Venetian pigeons could be genuinely frightening. This behavior was a direct result of being fed by humans. They learned to associate people with food and lost their natural fear. The ban was partly an effort to restore a bit of balance and make the city's public spaces more pleasant for everyone, not just those who wanted a bird-covered selfie. So how did Venice actually implement this? The law was passed in 2008. It wasn't an overnight decision. It came after years of debate and trying other, less successful methods. They had tried introducing birds of prey to control the population, but that had limited success. The key was cutting off the food supply. The city stopped the licenses for the grain sellers in St. Mark's Square and put up signs in multiple languages, warning tourists of the ban and the potential fines. The fines can range from €50 to €500, depending on the situation. And yes, they are enforced. The municipal police do patrol the main squares, and they will issue tickets to people caught feeding the birds. The goal wasn't just to punish people, but to educate them. Many tourists simply didn't know the harm they were causing. They saw it as a fun, harmless tradition. The city needed to change that perception and make it clear that protecting Venice was a shared responsibility. And has it worked? The answer is a resounding yes. Since the ban was put in place, the pigeon population in Venice has dropped dramatically. While you'll still see pigeons in the city, they haven't disappeared entirely there. Numbers are much more manageable. St. Mark's Square is no longer a chaotic cloud of feathers. It's a much calmer, cleaner, and more majestic space where you can actually appreciate the stunning architecture without being mobbed. The buildings are under less strain, the cleaning costs have been reduced, and the overall experience for visitors has improved. It is a powerful example of how a seemingly small change in tourist behavior can have a huge positive impact on a fragile destination. The pigeons themselves are healthier too. A diet of tourist-provided bread and seeds is not good for them. It's like feeding a wild animal junk food. By cutting off this artificial food source, the population has naturally regulated itself to a more sustainable level, and the remaining birds are more likely to forage for their own, more appropriate food. This story of the Venetian pigeons is a really important lesson in responsible tourism. It reminds us that when we visit a place, especially one as unique and delicate as Venice, we are guests. Our actions have consequences. What might seem like a harmless, fun activity can contribute to a much larger problem. Venice is facing numerous challenges, from over-tourism to rising sea levels, and its residents are working hard to preserve their home. Respecting local rules, like the ban on feeding pigeons, is a small but meaningful way that we as visitors can help. It is about looking beyond our own desire for a photo and considering the well-being of the place we are privileged to experience. The beauty of Venice is not just in its canals and buildings, but in its very survival. So, the next time you're in Venice and you see those pigeons, admire them from a distance. Take photos of the incredible architecture they used to damage. Enjoy a coffee in St. Mark's Square without having to guard your croissant. By not feeding them, you're not depriving yourself of an experience. You're actively participating in the preservation of one of the most beautiful cities in the world. You're being a responsible traveler, and you're helping to ensure that future generations will be able to marvel at the magic of Venice, just as you are. It's a simple act of respect that goes a long way. Thanks for watching, everyone! If you found this interesting, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories about the fascinating details of our world. See you in the next one!